A carpenter stands before a board of walnut and runs his palm along the grain. He does not see an interchangeable rectangle of lumber. He sees the place where the tree bent toward the sun. He notices the darker line left by an old wound. He feels where the grain will resist the blade and where it may split if hurried. Before he cuts, he waits. The material has an opinion. Across town, a purchasing manager opens a spreadsheet. Walnut appears there too. It has a product number, a price per unit, a delivery date, and a little red cell indicating that costs rose 4% last quarter. Neither man is foolish. Both are looking at the same board. They are not seeing the same thing. The carpenter sees a particular object with a history, a character, and a proper use. The manager sees a standardized input. The carpenter's task is to discover what this piece of wood can become. The manager's task is to make one unit behave like the next. Civilization depends upon both forms of sight. Trouble begins when the spreadsheet is given the final word. Artists have always regarded merchants with a certain suspicion. The merchant asks what people will buy. The artist asks what deserves to exist. These questions can dine together for an evening. They may even become friends. Yet sooner or later, usually when the bill arrives, they discover that they belong to different orders of judgment. One concerns appetite. The other concerns worth. Modern defenders of the free market often dismiss the artist's hostility toward commerce as vanity dressed in black. The artist, they suspect, wants applause without customers, patronage without obligation, and money without the vulgar inconvenience of making something another person wishes to purchase. There are artists who fit this description. Every profession keeps a few peacocks in the supply closet. Yet the artistic case against the free market is far stronger than its critics admit. It reaches beyond the familiar complaint that artists are poorly paid. It concerns the kind of world a market creates when scale becomes its ruling principle. Markets reward what can be standardized, repeated, measured, distributed, and sold to the largest possible audience. Art grows from particularity. It depends upon memory, inherited form, trained judgment, difficult materials, and the strange personal authority by which one person decides that a line, a room, a melody, or a sentence must take this shape rather than another. The market may distribute art. It cannot tell us what art is for. A market records desire under particular conditions. It tells us that 1 million people bought a book, watched a film, ordered a chair, or streamed a song. It cannot tell us whether the book was wise, the film beautiful, the chair worthy of inheritance, or the song capable of surviving the season in which it appeared. That distinction should be elementary. Commercial culture has spent a century sanding it away. Sales are treated as a public vote on quality. Millions chose the object. Who is the critic to object? The cash register has spoken, and apparently the cash register attended graduate school. Yet people choose among what has been made available, placed before them, priced within reach, and repeated until familiarity begins to resemble affection. A purchase may reveal genuine love. It may reveal exhaustion, habit, convenience, low expectations, or the simple fact that every alternative was hidden behind 3 menus and a subscription wall. The market measures behavior. Beauty concerns judgment. This becomes obvious in the fine art trade. The price of a painting may reflect its rarity, reputation, provenance, speculative appeal, or usefulness as a social signal. A collector may pay an enormous sum because the work completes a collection, carries a famous name, or will probably become more expensive next year. None of this reads the painting. Price can recognize a demand for beauty. It cannot recognize beauty itself. That incapacity frustrates artists because art requires hierarchy. Some works are better than others. Some buildings possess greater dignity. Some melodies carry more human experience. Some images train the eye. Others grab it by the collar and demand lunch money. A civilization that loses the courage to speak this way begins treating judgment as private preference. Beauty becomes something one happens to like, much as one likes mint toothpaste or a particular brand of potato chip. The critic is replaced by the rating system, and 5 stars descend upon mankind with all the majesty of fluorescent rain. Once worth has been reduced to preference, scale becomes the nearest available substitute for authority. The popular work appears important because it is popular. The familiar object appears good because it is familiar. Repetition creates legitimacy. Then the market begins reshaping the things it claims merely to distribute. Mass production requires abstraction. The tree becomes timber. The field becomes acreage. The craftsman's afternoon becomes labor cost. The town becomes a market. The painting becomes an asset. The viewer becomes a demographic. The song becomes a vehicle for engagement. Abstraction has its place. A large society cannot function without measurements, inventories, forecasts, and categories. We need to know how many boards are in the warehouse. We need to know what they cost. The danger arrives when the category becomes more real to the decision maker than the thing it describes. The corporation depends upon interchangeability. One part must replace another. One worker must perform the same process as the next. One store must resemble the store 3 states away. Judgment creates variation, and variation makes the spreadsheet twitch. Irregularity becomes expensive. The same pressure falls upon culture. A story rooted in a particular people, faith, place, and inheritance presents commercial difficulties. Its references may be unfamiliar. Its humor may refuse export. Its moral order may require knowledge that cannot be explained during the opening scene. The solution is to scrape away the troublesome details. The costumes may remain exotic. The names may acquire apostrophes. The imaginary kingdom may possess 6 moons and a dragon with unresolved family concerns. Yet everyone speaks in the same therapeutic dialect. Every village shares the moral assumptions of an American corporate office. Every rebel seeks personal authenticity, while the king worries that he has failed to communicate expectations. The story can now travel everywhere because it belongs nowhere. Particularity carries history. History creates obligations, grievances, loyalties, and exceptions. Scale prefers a clean surface. It does not leave the audience untouched. Taste is learned through exposure. A child raised among graceful buildings learns proportion before he knows the word. A girl who watches her grandmother mend a linen tablecloth receives an education in material, patience, and continuity. A boy who helps his father repair an old chair learns that an object may deserve care because it has served the family longer than he has been alive. The room teaches. A carved banister tells the hand that someone once thought the passage between floors deserved beauty. A heavy book tells the reader that words may be worth binding for a century. A garden wall tells the child that stone can hold the afternoon sun long after the mason has gone home. The lesson also works in reverse. A population surrounded by plastic surfaces, temporary furniture, blank walls, disposable clothes, commercial jingles, and buildings designed to survive an approval committee gradually loses its ability to recognize what has disappeared. Ugliness becomes normal. Normality becomes preference. Market defenders then point to this preference as proof that the market merely gave people what they wanted. Consumers bought gray houses, gray floors, gray cars, gray furniture, and gray clothes. No one forced them. The public has spoken in the sacred language of grayish. This explanation has the charming innocence of a wolf claiming the sheep requested thinner fencing. Large producers do not sit quietly beside a wishing well and wait for desire to announce itself. They decide which goods will be manufactured by the million, stocked in stores, financed cheaply, advertised constantly, shipped quickly, and delivered by Thursday. They shape the field within which preference grows. The customer may choose among 20 couches. Yet all 20 often share the same materials, proportions, construction methods, and assumptions about how long a couch should survive. Choice multiplies while difference contracts. We receive abundance without variety. An eye trained by plastic does not naturally demand carved wood. A hand accustomed to replacement does not ask whether a broken hinge can be repaired. The loss of taste makes the customer easier to satisfy. He asks whether the object is fashionable, familiar, inexpensive, and immediately available. The craftsman has more troublesome questions. He wants to know what the object is made from. He wants to know how it was joined. He wonders whether the proportions are right, whether the surface will age with dignity, whether the legs can bear weight for 50 years, and whether anyone will care enough to keep it. Such questions slow the transaction. They are bad for quarterly velocity and rather good for civilization. The conflict reaches beyond furniture because market society reduces the citizen to a consumer. A citizen belongs to a political community. He inherits duties, memories, loyalties, and claims upon the future. He asks what sort of people his community should form, and what kind of common life one generation owes the next. A consumer buys things. The roles can inhabit the same person. The danger begins when the language of consumption escapes the shop and occupies the whole of life. Education becomes a service purchased for career advantage. Worship becomes a spiritual preference. Political membership becomes a bundle of personal opinions. Marriage becomes a lifestyle arrangement. Art becomes entertainment selected according to mood. The citizen ceases to receive a world. He browses one. This sounds like freedom until we ask who creates the available options. The ordinary consumer selects among systems built by banks, developers, platforms, advertisers, employers, manufacturers, and government offices. He may choose the color of an appliance. He rarely decides whether his town will possess beautiful streets, local shops, durable buildings, or public rooms worthy of affection. He chooses from the menu. He does not own the kitchen. The buyer is sovereign at checkout and politically weightless everywhere else. He can rate the delivery experience but cannot restore the demolished theater. He can order a framed photograph of an old Main Street after the old Main Street has been replaced by a parking lot. Commerce is generous that way. It will sell you a memorial to the thing it helped erase. The artist enters this order with a dangerous disadvantage. He wishes to make something whose final form may be unknown when the work begins. The market prefers recognizable categories, predictable costs, regular output, and a known audience. The market asks for the pitch before the discovery. A publisher wants a clear genre. A streaming company wants a dependable format. A gallery wants a recognizable style. A social platform wants frequent posting. Advertisers want safe associations. Audiences expect familiar emotional beats. Each demand makes sense by itself. Together, they build a machine that rewards repetition. The artist is told to become a brand. A brand promises that the next product will resemble the previous one closely enough to satisfy the existing customer. This is excellent advice for soap. For an artist, it can become a polished coffin with pleasing typography. The successful painter discovers that collectors want more paintings from his blue period. The novelist's first book finds an audience, so the next book must deliver the same emotional arrangement in a new jacket. The musician writes one beloved song at 24 and spends the next 40 years being asked to recreate the sound of a young man who no longer exists. Success liberates the artist from obscurity while binding him to expectation. The public says that it loves him. Then it demands that he remain frozen at the moment of introduction. The market has invested in a particular version of the artist. Change threatens that investment. The painter's discovery becomes his permanent address. The filmmaker becomes caretaker of a franchise. The writer manages the public memory of his own sentences. A small bureaucracy takes up residence inside the studio. Its employees are imaginary, but their meeting schedule is oppressive. The artist begins asking whether the audience will understand the new work. He wonders whether the platform will show it. He considers whether the title contains the right search term. He trims the strange corner, softens the difficult passage, brightens the miniature image, and moves the revelation closer to the beginning because attention tends to wander after 8 seconds. Soon, he is imitating his own miracle. The market calls this consistency. The artist experiences it as taxidermy. Serious artists need private territory beyond measurement. They need work that may fail, confuse, disappoint, or remain unfinished. They need to place a strange object on the workbench and live beside it before knowing what it means. They need the freedom to follow the material past the border of their public identity. Without that hidden chamber, discovery is replaced by supply. Art becomes content. The word should trouble us. A painting once possessed a medium, a form, a subject, and a material presence. Now it is content, the substance poured into whatever container happens to be available. A film, an essay, a photograph, a joke, a confession, and a recording of a man falling off a folding chair enter the same stream under the same name. Content exists to keep the container occupied. Art once sought permanence. Content seeks circulation. A painting may wait for its viewer. Content pursues him into the bedroom, the train, the bathroom, and the 3 quiet seconds during which he might otherwise have remembered that he possesses a soul. The machine cannot tolerate silence because silence does not generate a measurable response. Craft fares little better under the rule of scale. Craft remains stubbornly attached to human limits. A cabinet maker has 2 hands. A potter can fire only so many vessels. A stone carver cannot double production because demand rose during the holiday quarter. The material resists, the body tires. Knowledge remains personal and difficult to reduce to written procedure. These limits give craft its character. A handmade object bears the decisions of its maker. Slight irregularities reveal the sequence of work. The grain redirects the blade. The clay sags and must be corrected. The maker responds as the object emerges. responsibility remains whole. Scale divides this responsibility into tasks, measurements, and procedures. The worker may never see the completed object. He may never meet the person who receives it. Skill migrates from the craftsman into the system. This produces cheaper abundance. The price is paid elsewhere. Objects become difficult to repair. Local knowledge disappears. Apprenticeship contracts. The customer learns to replace instead of maintain. The broken object goes into a bin, and its successor arrives in a cardboard box the following afternoon. The crafted object survives as a luxury good. This is one of mass production's crueler achievements. Beauty and durability become privileges of wealth. The rich purchase wood, stone, linen, wool, brass, and skilled labor. Ordinary households receive synthetic surfaces bearing names that suggest geological confidence. The old poor owned fewer things. Many could be repaired and passed down. The modern consumer owns a republic of debris. A humane defense of craft cannot stop with expensive bowls displayed beneath gallery lighting. Craft must return to ordinary life. A well-made table should be common enough to acquire scratches. A wool coat should grow old around its owner. A cup should survive long enough to be associated with one person in the family. The object becomes meaningful through use. A chip in the glaze marks the winter when the pipes froze. A repaired drawer remembers the grandfather who fixed it. The table bears the faint circles left by years of hot plates and careless children. Such objects acquire biography because they remain. Disposable goods never stay long enough to remember us. Mass production creates another appetite. Vast quantities of goods require vast quantities of desire. Advertising bridges the gap. It borrows nearly every power of art. It takes image, color, rhythm, music, symbolism, narrative, humor, beauty, fear, memory, and longing. It directs them toward an end selected in advance. Purchase. A painter may reveal the dignity of a face. An advertiser attaches dignity to a watch. A composer may lead the listener towards sorrow or glory. A commercial composer has 11 seconds to make a sandwich feel emotionally necessary. The feat deserves a certain grim admiration. Advertising does more than announce that a product exists. It teaches people to interpret goods as signs of moral and social identity. The home reveals success. The shirt reveals authenticity. The car reveals masculine authority. The beverage reveals rebellion. The product enters the room wearing a human virtue, like a stolen military coat. Character becomes appearance. Virtue becomes branding. The soul is asked to stand behind the cardboard cutout and keep quiet. This is where art is turned against the person. Beauty becomes bait. The customer purchases an object partly to narrate himself. He constructs an identity through shoes, furniture, music, restaurants, and devices. Consumption takes on the shape of ritual. The parcel arrives. The box opens. The object is photographed before it is used. Approval appears in small red numbers. For a moment, the buyer feels visible. Then the feed moves. The market must keep identity unstable because a settled person is a difficult customer. A man who knows who he is may purchase a coat when his old coat wears out. A man who hopes a coat will reveal who he is can be sold several. The artist senses the obscenity here because art once helped people encounter realities outside themselves. It gave form to grief, reverence, beauty, terror, memory, and death. Advertising redirects those powers toward appetite, while disguising appetite as self-expression. The result is a society surrounded by aesthetic activity and starved of beauty. Commercial culture also prefers immediate legibility. The package must explain itself from the shelf. The film must reveal itself through the trailer. The book must communicate through a title, subtitle, cover, category, and tiny online image. The song must seize attention before the listener moves on. Mystery becomes a commercial risk. Great art often resists this demand. It may be quiet, slow, offensive, strange, or initially obscure. Its meaning changes through repeated encounters. It may require knowledge the viewer does not yet possess. It can train the audience instead of flattering it. Commercial culture reverses that relation. The work must meet the audience exactly where it stands. It must confirm familiar emotional habits and reward comprehension immediately. Difficulty is treated as a defect. This creates legibility without depth. Every character announces his motives. Every image declares its moral position. Every story explains what it means. Symbolism arrives wearing a name tag. The viewer becomes skilled at recognition while losing the patience required for contemplation. Online, this pressure becomes severe. Art enters a continuous auction for attention. A work that yields meaning slowly competes with a face, a scandal, a pet, an advertisement, a war, a joke, and someone cooking an egg in a manner that apparently requires police involvement. An artist may spend a year developing the meaning of a painting. The platform gives it half a second to defend its existence. One should admire the nerve of the arrangement. Popularity then becomes counterfeit authority. Views, followers, ratings, shares, and sales serve as proxies for importance. A work matters because many people encountered it. A person deserves attention because many people already attend to him. Popularity produces visibility. Visibility produces more popularity. The system resembles a coronation conducted by a turnstile. Numerical authority appears democratic because everyone may participate. Yet the platform decides which work receives exposure, which signals count, how recommendations operate, and which behavior receives a reward. The audience votes after the candidates have been selected. Numbers also spare us the burden of judgment. If millions enjoyed the thing, one feels rather rude questioning it. Yet millions can consume a work without loving it. Consumption requires almost nothing. A song may be playing while no one listens. A series may dominate a season and vanish without leaving a scar. Boredom can generate impressive statistics. Older forms of judgment depended upon critics, teachers, editors, patrons, families, guilds, and inherited canons. These authorities could be narrow, corrupt, vain, and magnificently overdressed. They still defended a necessary claim. Taste could be cultivated, and artistic worth exceeded popularity. Their decline did not free culture from authority. It left an empty throne. The algorithm climbed into it wearing gym clothes. Taste returned as branding. Everyone wanted a point of view. Everyone assembled reference boards, adopted a visual vocabulary, and learned the appropriate names for shades of beige. Distinction became a purchasable package. Most rebels were shopping from the same shelf. The damage appears most clearly in place. Culture occurs somewhere. It grows from climate, material, language, faith, memory, conflict, local humor, inherited wounds, and the peculiar habits by which a people arranges ordinary life. These conditions produce forms that belong to a place. Scale weakens that attachment because local variation obstructs expansion. A chain benefits when the same building, menu, labor process, and customer expectation can be reproduced across the country. A developer benefits when the same apartment plan can be approved repeatedly. A media company benefits when the same story crosses national borders without explanation. The result is the interchangeable city. Travel 1,000 miles and find the same hotel, pharmacy, restaurant, furniture, music, clothing, and architectural vocabulary. Local identity survives in a mural commissioned to announce that the neighborhood possesses local identity. The joke has acquired a project manager. When local culture survives under these conditions, it often survives as a theme. The folk craft becomes decoration. The feast becomes tourism. The regional meal becomes a menu item at an airport. The historic district becomes an expensive backdrop for people whose work has no relation to the town. The practice dies. The branding remains. Artists defend old buildings because they understand that memory requires material anchors. Particular lives occurred in particular rooms. A staircase bears the rhythm of feet that climbed it for generations. A public square contains the memory of markets, funerals, speeches, festivals, quarrels, courtships, and children chasing birds. Replace such a place with a standardized development, and something more than architecture disappears. A people cannot remain attached to a town rebuilt every generation according to a universal commercial plan. Scale sees the parcel. The artist sees the dead standing behind the windows. This reveals the deepest fault in the market's account of value. The market is suspicious of anything whose use cannot be stated quickly. A bridge carries traffic. A furnace produces heat. A database stores records. Their purposes fit neatly into a report. A poem may alter how a man understands his father's death 40 years after it was written. The report has nowhere to place this event. Art appears useless because its greatest effects resist measurement. The same problem afflicts every human good that consumes time without producing an obvious return. Friendship, mourning, contemplation, loyalty, family meals, and the keeping of graves begin to look like indulgences. They may be permitted as forms of personal wellness, provided they return the worker to his desk on Monday in a sufficiently pleasant condition. The market makes a poor judge of human worth because the person exceeds productive necessity. This will matter more as machines become capable of performing greater portions of human labor. A society that values people according to economic output will become cruel when a machine produces that output more cheaply. Once usefulness determines dignity, the displaced person must defend his right to remain. Art resists this reduction because it addresses the person as an end. It asks for attention without promising convenience. It gives form to experiences that cannot be priced without being diminished. An artist may spend a year carving something few people will see. The work may possess no practical use. It may never return the cost of the material. Within the commercial frame, he appears irrational. Within civilization, he may be perfectly sane. The usual reply from the defender of the free market is simple. No one forces consumers to buy ugly furniture, watch derivative films, eat in chain restaurants, or furnish their homes with disposable objects. Better alternatives exist. People choose what they prefer. The reply treats formal choice as though all choices occur under equal conditions. A handcrafted table may cost several months of spare income. The factory table can be financed and delivered tomorrow. The local shop pays more for stock than the multinational seller. The independent writer struggles to reach readers without entering platforms that control access to them. The choice exists. Its structure has already selected the likely winner. A family cannot buy the house that was never built. A citizen cannot preserve the shop already driven out of business. A town cannot recover the craft whose final teacher died 20 years ago. The defender points to the final transaction. The artist looks at the world that made the transaction nearly inevitable. Freedom must include some power to shape the field. Selection among prepared options is a thin freedom. It resembles being allowed to choose the wallpaper in a room whose doors are locked. The artist's deeper offense is his belief in goods that should remain superior to demand. Beauty may deserve preservation while unpopular. A building may deserve survival when demolition would bring greater profit. A craft may deserve protection when factory goods cost less. A serious book may deserve publication when its audience is small. A ceremonial form may deserve continuity when contemporary visitors find it difficult. A grove may deserve restraint when development promises revenue. The market cannot reach these judgments because it receives its ends from the desires of its participants. It has no account of what desire should desire. That account must come from culture, moral tradition, political judgment, inherited memory, and cultivated taste. The libertarian fears this admission because it grants authority to someone besides the individual buyer. The fear has cause. Patrons can be vain. Academies can become private clubs for mediocrity. Governments can fund propaganda and ugliness with astonishing confidence. Yet the market also exercises authority. It hides authority inside ownership, scale, price, and procedure. Someone always decides what will be built, preserved, taught, published, distributed, and displayed. Market society does not abolish patronage. It transfers patronage to advertisers, investors, corporate executives, developers, wealthy collectors, and platforms. Wealth does not create taste by itself. Sometimes it purchases a 30-foot fork. The question remains moral and political. What should power serve? The answer cannot be the destruction of markets. Exchange can serve human life. Private ownership can protect independence. Competition can break stale monopolies. Profit can support artists, spread books, lower the cost of tools, and free a creator from obedience to a single patron. A small maker can now find buyers scattered across a continent. A writer can publish without waiting for an editor's permission. Digital tools can preserve archives, teach forgotten methods, and connect patrons with craftsmen who would once have remained invisible. A tool belongs in the hand. It does not belong on the altar. The error lies in treating the free market as the final court of value. A humane economy places markets within an order that protects human goods from the appetite of scale. It makes room for local ownership. It teaches craft before the knowledge vanishes. It repairs durable goods. It treats public buildings as inheritances. It supports work whose worth exceeds immediate demand. Most of all, it refuses to mistake growth for proof of goodness. Scale has a theology. It treats expansion as favor, appetite as revelation, and price as judgment. It promises abundance while quietly deciding which kinds of things may exist. This theology must be denied its throne. Artists are right to hate the free market when that phrase means an order in which everything must become scalable, measurable, purchasable, immediately legible, and easy to distribute. Their hatred often begins with ugliness. They see the dead street, the synthetic room, the identical restaurant, the algorithmic song, the disposable chair, the novel assembled for a marketing category, and the painting valued chiefly as an investment. They sense that these objects are connected, even when they lack the economic language to explain the connection. Beneath the ugliness lies a theory of man. The commercial order treats the person as a bundle of appetites. It measures him through purchases, attention, labor, data, and predictable behavior. His freedom consists of selecting among prepared options. His worth becomes entangled with productivity. His culture becomes whatever can circulate widely enough to pay for itself. Art addresses another creature. It speaks to a person capable of reverence, memory, discipline, sacrifice, judgment, contemplation, and love. It assumes that his attention has dignity. It asks him to see rather than register, to listen rather than react, and to receive something he did not know he wanted. Art reminds him that freedom includes obedience to what is worthy. This is why artists remain troublesome. They defend objects that cannot justify their expense in a quarterly report. They preserve inconvenient memories. They make distinctions in an age devoted to flattening them. They believe some things should survive because they are beautiful. Return to the carpenter. The walnut board still rests beneath his hand. The grain bends around the old wound. A machine could cut it quickly. A purchasing department could replace it cheaply. A retailer could sell a convincing imitation by Thursday. The carpenter waits. Then he turns the board toward the light. He has seen where the cut must go. Years from now, a family may gather around the table he makes. A child will mark its underside with a pencil. A hot dish will leave a pale ring near one corner. Someone will repair a loose joint. The surface will darken beneath thousands of touches. Long after its purchase price has been forgotten, the table will remain. The market asks, what will sell? The artist asks, what deserves to remain?